would your message be as a softening start? Okay. And folks, if this is making sense, let me know in the chat. Okay. So then the next thing is, be clear about what the boundary is. And in many cases, it's not all or nothing. We're not coming or we are coming to your place. We get anxious even thinking about saying we can only stay for 2 hours. Like, that's going to sound horrible, right? But we need to be clear what the boundary is. You can even add more assurance. And it's not that we don't want to spend longer, but I know you care about me, and I also have to take care of myself. I'm trying to do better at that. So I really need your support with this. So we kind of recruit them to be supportive as opposed to selfish, and to recognize that, that's part of being a family. So we make it clear, and so write that part out as well. And here's the experiment of it. We decide then whether we're going to read that to them, whether we're going to sit down with them, talk about it, whether we're going to, say it over the phone, but we actually do it with one person. And that the experiment is this: even though we're afraid to set the boundary, we set it anyhow. We've prepared it so we feel confident that the message is fair and respectful, right? And then we do it. Now, we're going to feel anxious while we're doing it. Afterwards, we're going to be afraid of the blowback. But you know what you find 2 weeks later when you look back? No one died. No one died. So what does that mean? I did it. And if there's a little bit of disappointment, you know what? That's part of what's required. Because if that person is disappointed with you setting a fair boundary, that's their need to grow. You have to cost benefit analysis, the pros, the benefits of this, right? So, but often it's more doable than we think. Okay, so I get off the soapbox here.
No, I think it's a good point. And I think especially the resentment, we're in unique positions in public safety, or, a job that requires 24/7, never closes, requires the mental and emotional that it does. And I think sometimes we kind of feel like, a friend reaches out at any time of the year, but especially the holidays when those invites kind of come more frequently. Mm-hmm. And we go, we let them know we can't come, or they invite us to something and we kind of want to assume that I work nights and I can't come. Why did they even, they don't respect me, or not respect me, but they don't understand my job. No one understands the demands. And we kind of have this soundtrack that plays in our head of they don't understand. And sometimes it's like, you got to take a step back and be like, but I actually talked to them about it? But maybe they were just inviting me, even though they know I can't come, but they also want to make sure that I know that they remember me and, want to extend that. So I think sometimes we can kind of have this track playing in our head that isn't necessarily true. We just assign intentions, and we don't always take the time to explain to people, what the demands are, what it looks like, or even understand again that they're just reaching out so that they want us to know that they were thinking about us. But then we take it as almost an insult, I work nights, why would you even invite me? That's that doesn't make sense.
It's a big statement. It's a really big statement. How much do we take on in our own private thinking that really is more distressing? It's a really good point, right? So folks, what do you think about that? Can you relate to what Halcyon just said? Toss it in the chat. And Halcyon, I really think that's accurate for a lot of us. And then the question is, okay, then what is the concrete messaging to family? And we in our home life class, we talk about that. Even the 911 brain, we don't have to go into that right now. But the point is, have we had the discussion? Listen, I know that my job, what about to our children, to our parents, to our siblings right out there? What about this conversation? I'm not trying to script it like this is the right way to say it and the best way to say it, but I'm just trying to support language messaging on this to make it concrete. And then Halcyon, you fire back, okay? And maybe offer your own as you choose. But it's like, listen, I realize that I haven't really fully ever explained how my job affects me and how the demands of it, because I know it impacts you. And maybe even offer the apology. And I'm sorry, because I realize my job does impact you a lot. And we talk about it when we're most frustrated, but we've never actually just in a peaceful way just discussed, I know that this job changes our holidays, and it has for years. And I want you to be honest about the disappointment about that. And because I'm doing the best I can with it, but can we be honest? It's disappointing. Now, we have a lot of veteran dispatchers who work through that with their families, and they're just kind of doing it. But a lot who aren't there yet, right? So how does that first part sound, Halcyon, in terms of, just acknowledging, can we just acknowledge together that, yeah, we're bummed that we can't do it the way their families do it. It is frustrating that I can't be there for all the things you want. And we acknowledge that.
Yeah, I think that's like, it's a good step too, because sometimes even in just anytime you're dealing with a not ideal situation, just acknowledging that like, this sucks. This really stinks and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're all on the same page, like, this really stinks and we don't like it, but how do we deal with it? How do we cope? Where do we go from here, kind of thing. But yeah, I love that. And I think it's very important to even sometimes just acknowledging like, yep, nope, this is terrible and I don't like it any more than you do, but this is kind of the hand we're dealt. And, how can we together kind of work through these things?
Right. See, and I think that's a step one, step two. Kelly, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I just think it's a step one, step two, because when we feel guilty or anxious about the disappointment of our family members, we want to like try harder to please everybody. And when they express frustration, we can try to shut it down because it activates our sense of guilt. So, like when we go all the way back to the beginning of our conversation here, when Joyce said, it makes me angry, irritable, and want to, like, she didn't say choke people out, but it was kind of like that. Well, what's underneath that? Often it's the anxiety and the concern that we're not able to fulfill what we want, right? So what I'm getting at is, please try to notice when you're feeling defensive and flip it around and actually invite them dumping, because this is not your failure, it's your reality with your work. So allow yourself to invite them to it. So it's almost your idea. Hey, let's talk about how much it sucks. Because Halcyon, then what happens? When you get to that next part, and here's the deal. Do you feel like I'm listening to you? It's like, do you feel like I'm listening? You said that it's disappointing for this reason. You wish we could be like other families. Do you feel like I'm hearing you on that? Well, yeah. Okay, because you know what? I'm going to be honest. I feel a sense of loss too, or I feel disappointment too. You do? Like, you always just say, like, let's make the best of it. Like, you mean it's okay for us to admit together? Yeah, absolutely. And how about we brainstorm now? How can we make the best of this? What would be your best second version or different version? And then you could look in the chat, and I bet you people will write down all kinds of alternatives they've come up with. But this is a hard conversation.
Yeah, and I think it kind of too goes back to like, if you can just kind of sit there and all talk like about why it sucks, then you kind of lose that feeling of like, if they're frustrated with your job because it doesn't allow for different things, and you're like, well, I have to do it, this, and you're more defensive, it can almost kind of feel like, or be interpreted as like you almost like are picking the job over them, when that's obviously not the case.
Right.
And so when you shift that to like, yeah, let's all talk about why this isn't the greatest, it feels less like defending and maybe picking something over the other thing, and more of like, how do we work through it? And you just kind of cut out that piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No one knows what that means to you, and ask how support looks like to someone. So I think what I'm getting from that, Joyce, is, we can't assume that they know what we need. And look, dispatchers are not necessarily that great at expressing what you need. You're good at meeting other people's needs. And I do think it's important to develop a vocabulary, what to teach them. Hey, listen, you know what I want for Christmas most, folks? Here's what I really need. I drive too hard. I just push myself too hard. I need you to gift me with acceptance of my limits, that I can only do this much during this Christmas. I need for you, maybe could, and for my own family, I need you guys to step up and do more of the chores. I need you to leave me alone for a couple hours. express what those needs are. Veronica, were you going to jump into?
So when you guys were talking about telling your family what they can do to support you, and this may not be something for everybody, well, the one thing I really loved that I saw in my PSOP was people's families coming to hang out with them while they were working on Christmas. So, especially if you're a director, if you work in a comm center where you are able to do those background checks, let those people come in and spend time with their family. I've always thought that was a really great thing I saw. Oh, maybe you can come and sit with me for a couple hours while I work on Christmas so that we can spend some time together, if that's something that you are able to do and have the time to do on that holiday. So
Great, I like that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And then you're celebrating. You can kind of brag on your family, be proud of them, and that's pretty cool. I mean, when I've seen kids come to the comm center, it's so fun to have them there. Everybody is bright. It's almost as good as bringing a puppy into the center.
Almost.
Right. Well, Halcyon, anything else? What do you want your peers, your 911 family members, to know as they head into Christmas? I mean, just from your heart to theirs, what do you hope for them, and what do you want for them?
So I just want briefly touch, I know it's come up in some of the Facebook groups and people are like, I have young kids, but kind of going back to your celebration doesn't have to look like anybody else's. So maybe you're only available on FaceTime to watch, people open presents. That's okay. Maybe you have to do Christmas on the 27th with your kids. That's okay. Maybe you have to do Christmas on January 15th because that's the only day that lined up for everybody. That's okay. Whatever kind of plans you have to make or modifications to the holiday season you have to make, that's okay.
Yes.
And it's going to be okay.
Please seek that. And if you need help, you can email us. And the other thing is for a lot of us, the holidays it's bringing up trauma. It's bringing up loss, as Joyce bravely shared at the beginning. Seek that help. Let us help you get that help. Okay. So that, and don't try to force the resolution of all your life issues to have them resolved before Christmas. Accept the reality that we're south of heaven together, and you are lovable and you are awesome the way you are. Get the support you need without trying to force closure to your issues so the holidays will be perfect. Let the holidays be imperfect like we are, and you'll find more peace from it.